How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the June 2019 recap. Now, this is a new series I'm starting on the channel to kind of go along with this whole new new look to the channel, if you will, that I've been going with recently. But in this new series, what the idea is I'm going to do little mini summary / reviews of the films that I didn't get a chance to do a full review on in one video. So basically what I'm doing now with the channel going forward is, instead of focusing on reviewing every single movie that I see and doing, big reviews on each and every single one of them, instead I will focus on doing longer and better reviews on the movies that I really want to talk about, and the movies that I felt a bit more, kind of just easy towards, or didn't really feel as much towards, I will put in this recap, which I'll release at the end of the month, and I'll do these little summary reviews. So it's just a little idea that I wanted to do, and obviously this is the first episode, so if you guys enjoy the episode and you want to see more of these, I'm going to show you support, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, it'll help me out a lot. And with all that out of the way, and with all that said, let's jump into the first film. Always Be My Maybe was a really pleasant surprise of a Netflix movie right at the very, very beginning of the month. Now, this movie did come out on like the last day of May or something, but I saw it like the first week of June, so I'm just going to include it here. This film was really, really nice and such a pleasant surprise. Netflix movies can be very, very hit and miss. I've reviewed a few of them here on the channel, and they can be very, very hit and miss, but this was definitely a hit. This film was just a really nice going, easy going movie that you could just sit down with and enjoy. Obviously it had that kind of Valentine's vibe to it, even though it's very, very late after Valentine's Day. It does kind of have that vibe to it. It's just a really nice movie that you could sit back and just relax with. You have two really strong, capable leads. Especially, I'm a big fan of the male lead of this film, whose name is escaping me, Randall Park. He was really good in this movie, really loved him, and I really like the character's backstory, the way you get to see their backstory through flashbacks, and you see how their history changed and how they kind of drifted apart and then how they've come back together. I just really appreciated that story, because again, it was something that wasn't too big or too, too grand to grasp. It was just one of them things that you could just sit with and just enjoy the ride it was taking you on. And again, the whole cast do a great job, especially Keanu Reeves, who was easily the standout of the movie, obviously, as he is in everything recently. I just think that this whole movie, it just had a really, really nice vibe to it all, and I thought that this film, as a Netflix movie, was definitely a success, which is something that Netflix has needed as of late. Late Night was a movie I was really excited about. I remember this movie being talked about, I believe, out of Sundance, and I remember being really excited about it when I found out that Amazon had actually picked it up to distribute the film, because Amazon really do a lot of great movies, and I've really found that over the last couple of years when you look at movies like The Big Sick and a couple others that I really personally have enjoyed. So when I found out that they had picked up this film, that definitely made me a lot more interested. And also, I really like the concept of this movie, like this idea of this kind of, struggling TV host who's been doing it for donkey's years, who has to trying to reaggress with the times to try and make herself relevant again. I really enjoyed that story, and putting Emma Thompson in that role was a fantastic decision. Emma Thompson is a wonderful actress who plays this role so well. I mean, yes, her character is kind of unlikable, but she plays it to a T, and I really, really enjoyed that, because it wasn't unlikable in a bad way. It was obviously a character who was supposed to be kind of unlikable, and I think that Emma Thompson played it brilliantly. Mix that with Mindy Kaling, who I also thought was great in this. She wrote the movie too. She definitely did a really good job with the screenplay, but also with her performance. This is just a really fun movie, just a really nice movie that I enjoyed, and like I say, this film, definitely coming from Amazon, was definitely a strong one for them, and this definitely feels like an Amazon style film. So if you like, Amazon, maybe like I say, The Big Sick and a few others, if you're a fan of those kind of films, you'll definitely settle into Late Night. Yesterday is the latest movie from Danny Boyle, and I have to say that this film was something I was very, very excited about, because Yesterday was a film that is all about the Beatles, and I just really enjoyed the style of the trailer. I really liked that the movie was really embracing the Beatles music. Obviously, it's all about that, a guy who wakes up in a world where the Beatles no longer exist, and I think that that was a really fun and interesting concept to play with. Mix that with Danny Boyle directing this film, and also the fact that this was a British film. I always like to support British movies, and a British comedy movie. I really like to support those kind of films. So to see this movie come out, and then for me personally not to gel with it too much, did make me very sad, and I feel like I'm in the minority with this one. Everyone seems to be loving this movie, at least in the British public. I know the movie hasn't exactly gone fully wide in the US quite yet, or I think it might have done as of this video being uploaded, but either way, here in the UK when I saw this movie, because I got to see this movie a little bit early, it seemed like everyone else was really, really enjoying it, but me personally, it just didn't quite hit the mark. While I feel like the film is really funny, and like those British comedy aspects really come through, especially with talents like Sanjeev Bhaskar in this movie, who I definitely think is the best character in the film, I really feel like the comedy, you know, is one of the only things that's holding this movie up, because the music, while fantastic and wonderful, for me personally, I'm not a particularly big Beatles fan. Not that I don't like their music, it's just not something I've ever particularly listened to all that much. So I don't have that personal connection to the Beatles. On top of that, I feel like the film has these couple of elements in it that really makes no sense and went completely over my head. Obviously, the whole concept of this film is that the Beatles don't exist anymore, but there are also other things that don't exist anymore, and for me personally, I didn't quite understand why that was. I've heard a couple of theories as to why that is, but it's never made abundantly clear in the film as to why that is, so I thought that was really strange. But other than that, I thought the performances were also really good in this movie. Hamish Patel, who you'll know from EastEnders, he's really good in this film. I really liked him. His singing voice is impeccable. Also, Lily James, I love Lily James. I'll watch anything she's in. And also just all the other cast members do a really good job overall. I think that this film, even Ed Sheeran's in this movie, and like he does a really good job in it. I mean, a little bit bland, obviously, he's not an actor, but it's still fun to see him, and he does, you know, poke fun at himself and kind of mess around on the film, which I do enjoy. And also this movie manages to get an actual strong, convincing performance out of Kate McKinnon, which I never expected. So this movie does have its good points and its bad points. Overall, I think it's a good movie. I just don't think it's a great movie, and I feel like that's disappointing because this film really could have been something special, but in the end it was good, it was fine, it was okay. And finally, we have Brightburn. Now, I was excited about this movie because this was a very fun concept. Taking the idea of the Superman origin story but turning him into a supervillain was really fun. I love the idea. James Gunn produced this movie. I thought, okay, this could be a really fun time. And yes, this movie is an absolutely hilariously fun time, but for all the wrong reasons. I think that this movie is absolutely appalling. It's just terrible across the board. Well, I feel like performances are probably the only thing that can really make this movie stand out. Like, I think Elizabeth Banks does the best she can do in this movie. I also really like the actor who plays the dad. I actually quite like the dad in the movie, but the kid who plays the lead character I thought was honestly really poor. But I don't really know if I can blame him or the script, because the script is the worst part of this movie. It's so basic, it's so terribly done. Literally from the opening scene I was like, this is the kind of movie this is going to be, isn't it? And it was like that the entire way through. And given the fact that this movie is only really around an hour and a half long, it feels so much longer than that. It's such an on-the-nose movie, and while there are some cool gory kills and they do get some really good horror moments, I wouldn't really describe this film as a horror movie because it's not really anything horrific outside of the violence. There's no real scares. The movie kind of relies on jump scares, which I really hate in horror movies because it's just such a cheap way to get a scare out of an audience, because it's just a human reaction. It's such a terrible way of going around it, and I just feel like the film was lacking so much. It has one of the most unimaginative scores I've seen in a long time, and the end credit song made me burst out laughing. There's just so many things about this that are on the nose, that's cringy, weird, and I just think that this movie could have been so much better and could have been so cool and so original, but in the end it was one of the most boring, bland and basic movies that I've seen in 2019. This is definitely one of the worst of the year for me, but like I say, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fun with this movie, because this was a great time, just not for the right reasons. So thank you guys for watching this June recap. If you like this series and you want to see more episodes like this, be sure to hit the like button and let me know in the comments down below. And also make sure you let me know your thoughts on any of these movies that I mentioned in this recap. If you've seen any of them, let me know your thoughts. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let's have a conversation about these movies in the comment section down below. And as always guys, if you want to see more movie reviews from me, be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again next time.